Welcome to Coaching for Creatives with Kirsten. My name is Kirsten Call. I'm a therapist-trained life coach and a children's book author. Together, we'll get the drama out of our lives and onto the page. Let's get started. You are listening to Episode 81, How to Rethink Rejection. As a picture book writer, I've experienced hundreds of rejections from agents and editors. In fact, I started my writing experience with the goal to get 100 rejections, hoping beyond hope that I'd receive an offer for one of my stories before that. I did, in fact, get an offer on the second story I ever wrote fairly quickly, within a year of beginning my kidlit journey. But after The Raindrop Who Couldn't Fall was published, it took me 6 years of prolific submissions and hundreds of rejections to get an agent, and then another year after that before my second book came out. Rejection is part of a writer's life. Jane Yolen, who has over 400 published books, still gets rejected, and often. She said, knowing that an editor is not rejecting me, but is rejecting the work, helps. Remembering that Owl Moon was turned down by 5 editors, that Sleeping Ugly was turned down by 13, and they are both still in print 25 plus years later. Knowing that Madeline Langle's A Wrinkle in Time was turned down by 29 publishers and then won the Newbery. That Dr. Seuss's To Think I Saw It on Mulberry Street by even more publishers and almost 50 years later is still a bestseller also helps. And as my late husband used to remind me, it's harder to sell a great book to a publisher than a good one. I love that. So even when we know rejection is a normal part of life, it's still hard. We want to belong. The desire to be accepted is a survival instinct. Dr. Mark Leary, a psychologist at Duke University, says, the people with the highest survival rates are the ones who were most attuned to behaving in ways that prevented other people from rejecting them. Dr. Leslie Becker Phelps wrote Bouncing Back from Rejection, and she says, learning to cope with rejection helps your overall mood and mental health. And she says, you'll feel more positively about yourself, and you'll also be more persevering and resilient. So let's talk about some ways that we can rethink rejection. Number 1, notice the difference between being rejected and feeling rejected. Sometimes we misread situations. Sometimes something neutral happens and we think of it as a rejection. If our work or invitation isn't received with enthusiasm, sometimes we feel dismissed. Many times we feel rejected when we technically aren't. Of course, rejection in the writing world is usually much more clear-cut than other rejections. Sometimes we never hear back from an editor or agent, or they send us a quick, this wasn't right for my list rejection. I got a really good rejection recently that said, I loved a lot about this manuscript. The verse was especially engaging. However, while I enjoyed getting to know the main characters and the parallels between their lives and struggles to find their own paths, and the writing was captivating, I did not quite feel the spark that would make it a good fit for our list at the moment. This is the kind of rejection that keeps me writing and submitting. But let's say you're feeling rejected by a family member or friend when they don't respond to a text or they say no to an invite. Ask yourself a few questions. Is this really a rejection? Did they just get my text when they couldn't respond? Are they struggling with something that might distract them? Am I really being rejected, or did I just not get the response I wanted? Number 2, it's all about your thoughts. I know I say this all the time. We don't feel rejected unless we're thinking thoughts that lead to the feeling of rejection. For me, when I wanted 100 rejections, each rejection from my manuscripts led me to my goal, and therefore it stung less, right? Or when someone doesn't answer a text of mine, I can choose to see it as a rejection, or I can choose to realize it's not about me. Most things aren't about me, which leads me to number 3. Number 3 is train your brain to see the good. Rejection can be a self-fulfilling prophecy because we train our brains to see rejection in everything, like when it takes too long for someone to respond to a text, or if someone doesn't call us back soon enough, or respond to our emails as quickly as we would like. When we focus on the fact that they do respond or did respond instead of how slow they were, we build better neural pathways that help us feel belonging instead of rejection. So for writing rejections, I'm actually glad I got a lot of rejections in the beginning. I'm still getting them, believe me. But in the beginning, my stories weren't ready to be published. And now the books I do have published are much better than they would have been had they been published 10 years ago. If I see another rejection as part of my journey of success, it's much less devastating and way more motivating, right? Number 4, spend time with people who lift you up. Pay attention to how you feel when you're with people. Ask yourself, do I feel good about myself when I'm with that friend? If the answer is no, it's time to rethink your friendship and find people who help you see how amazing you really are. Ideally, you do the same for them, and it's this beautifully reciprocal friendship. I love spending time with people who have faith in my creative abilities and can authentically say to me, that story deserves to be read. It deserves to be published. These kinds of friends help us think and feel the ways we need to feel for building positive neural pathways around how to handle rejection. Number 5, identify what you love about yourself. Take some time to think about what you love about yourself. Write those things down. Say them to yourself. And if you're having trouble figuring out what you love about yourself, have someone who knows you well help you come up with some things. When you write down and think about specific things you love about yourself, you counteract any feelings of rejection you might have felt during the day. You feel more resilient and more confident. So, as you get rejections, and as a human, we all get rejected. Stop. Rethink them. You might realize those rejections are exactly what you need to succeed. Until next time, keep smiling. If you like what you've heard, check out my Get Yourself Unstuck program. Go to KirstenCall.com. That's KirstenEcall.com and schedule a free consultation today. Coaching for Creatives is produced by Kirsten Call. Music and audio engineering by James Call.